This is Ed Rogers, and I'm here to show you how it's all connected. To avoid despair over what's happening around us, we must try to see current events from God's perspective instead of our own. We tend to focus on what we think's best for us and for our nation. God, however, has a much larger agenda, and his focus is greater than us and our nation. To see the bigger picture, we should ask some pointed questions. What is his ultimate purpose? Where is he taking us and the world? What has he already told us about the future? My meme is "It's all connected." One of my chief goals is to show how nothing happens in a vacuum. The cause and effect syndrome is happening all around us, and everything bad that is happening is the result of sin. It's a fact of life. In a sinful world, what else should we expect? Our challenge is to figure out why God is allowing these things. But without understanding his ways, this will be impossible. Our mission is to be so familiar with God's Word that we can recognize his actions today as being similar to what God has done before. David didn't have the Bible as his guide. He begged God, "Teach me your way and lead me on a level path because of my foes." He wanted to recognize God's activity in his life. With the benefit of the entire Bible, we know that God not only wants us to understand his ways, but when we recognize his activity around us, it's an invitation for us to join him in what he's doing. By joining him in his work, instead of doing something for God and asking him to bless it, we can know for certain that what we're doing is according to his will. So, our challenge regarding the news is twofold. First, to recognize God's activity, and second, to determine the best way to join him. I wish I could lay it all out for you, shedding unprecedented wisdom and understanding on the events of our day. But just like you, I'm struggling to understand it. However, I do believe that what I've just shared should help us to take that first step. I also believe that understanding God's dealings with Israel gets us started on the right foot. God chose Israel as the nation and people through whom he would make himself known to the world. It makes sense that he would also reveal his ways at the same time. Another key to understanding God's ways is to be intimately familiar with the life of Jesus. Jesus told Philip that anyone who had seen him, Jesus, had seen the Father. To understand the ways of Jesus is to understand the ways of God. The final key to better understand world events is having a basic knowledge of biblical prophecy. If we don't know where things are headed, we'll never understand where we are today. So here are the three things I think we must understand if we're to see God's hand in current events. First is God's dealings with Israel, the life and ways of Jesus, and an understanding of basic biblical prophecy. These, of course, are huge and complex topics, so in future programs, I'll take it one step at a time as I seek to make sense of the chaos around us by seeing the hand of God in current events. For today, let's just take a brief look at each of the three keys we must understand. I'll mention what first came to mind as I considered each topic. Regarding Israel, God brought judgment when Israel refused to obey him and turned to false gods. In the prophecies of Ezekiel, God repeatedly gave his reason. So they will know that I am God. Both after bringing judgment and doing good for them. Regarding the life of Jesus, he came that we may have abundant life, but he showed by example that real joy comes from denying ourselves, serving others, and seeing everything from God's point of view. Jesus' ultimate mission was to redeem mankind, restoring the relationship that had been so horribly damaged by sin. Now, I imagine at this point you're thinking, what does this have to do with current events? I just ask you to stay with me. I will show you how it's all connected. Regarding prophecy, the prophetic message from Daniel's interpretation of Nebuchadnezzar's dream about the great statue in Daniel chapter 2 is that sometime in the future, all the existing nations and cultures represented in the statue would be crushed at once as Christ directly attacks the feet of the statue. What this means for us is that at some point in time, the key players on the world stage, the contemporary versions of the empires of Babylon, Persia, Greece, and Rome, will all fall suddenly and decisively at the same time at the hands of a direct attack by Jesus Christ. Is this account in Daniel 2 fulfilled when Christ returns during his second coming, as prophesied in Zechariah 14, or sometime before that? We don't know for certain, but we are to understand the times we live in, and identifying who and what the statue is representing will greatly help us to better see what's unfolding before our eyes in what we call the news. This is a brief sampling of what I hope to elaborate on in future programs as we attempt to see the hand of God in what's transpiring on the world stage. If we are to make any sense of what we're seeing, we must try to see the bigger picture. And lastly, to lighten things up a bit as I close, here's my thought for today. Never be afraid to try something new. Remember, amateurs built the Ark. Professionals built the Titanic. I'm just saying. And now you know. I invite you to check out my website at edrogers.net, where you'll see my books, my blogs, and sign up for my twice-weekly blog or newsletter. Until our next program, this is Ed Rogers, showing you how. It's all connected.